6 galley hacks you can't live without. Did you know the galley often becomes the most hated space on a boat? And here's why. Most yacht owners set up their galley exactly the way the previous owner left it, and then spend the next 2 years fighting it every time they cook underway. But the challenges run deeper. You see, a bad galley setup doesn't just make cooking harder, it can ruin your water and power management strategies, hinder your provisioning, and it can quietly wear on you and your mate every single day you're aboard. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through 6 galley hacks that experienced cruisers swear by, and that most first-time owners completely miss. I call it the galley edit. Less stuff, better systems, and trust me, as a live-aboard veteran, I can vouch for every one of these hacks. Let's jump right in. Number 1, the stovetop. Let's start with what is probably the most argued about upgrade in any modern galley: induction versus propane. You've probably heard both sides. The propane camp says induction is too power hungry for a boat. The induction camp says propane is an unnecessary fire hazard. They're both partially right, but the question isn't which one is better in theory. The question is, what kind of boating will you actually do? If you're anchoring in remote cruising grounds for weeks at a time with no shore power, propane probably still makes sense. Your energy budget is tight, and refilling a propane tank is far easier in most anchorages than running a generator for 2 hours just to cook dinner. But if you're doing coastal passages, spending lots of time at marinas, or living aboard with regular shore power, induction wins. No open flame, no combustion risk, no propane locker or regulator to maintain, and modern induction cooktops draw significantly less power than their reputation suggests, especially with a lithium bank behind them. The mistake boat buyers make here is treating this as an either-or decision before they actually understand their own needs and the power systems on their next boat. Know your electrical setup first, then choose your stove. Before we get into water management, if you're finding this useful, subscribe. We put out practical content for boat buyers, owners, and sellers every single week on this channel. Now, let's talk about an area where many boats are quietly failing. Water management. Freshwater is your most valuable resource on a boat, not because it's rare, but because most people have no idea how fast they're burning through it. You might have 80 gallons aboard, you might have 150. It doesn't really matter, because the real problem isn't tank capacity, it's understanding your actual consumption rate. The fix is a water flow meter on your main freshwater line. Under $100, straightforward install, and the first time you actually check it mid-passage, the number will surprise you. From there, you can do all the little hacks, such as foot pumps over pressure pumps when you're at anchor, a low flow nozzle on the galley tap, rinse produce in a bowl, not under running water. Small habits, but they compound fast offshore. The cruisers who never stress about water aren't the ones with the biggest tanks. They're the ones who know exactly what they use. Safer hot water. Here's one most people haven't even considered. A dedicated instant hot water tap at your galley sink. This gives you boiling water on demand without touching your stove. For coffee, tea, oatmeal, rehydrating a passage meal, rinsing out a thermos, all of it faster and using a fraction of the energy of firing up the stove and running a kettle. Now, on a boat where counter space, stove time, and propane are all rationed, an instant hot water tap earns its footprint. Most units are compact enough for a galley cabinet, and the wiring is simple. It sounds like a luxury until you use it for a week, and then it becomes non-negotiable. Odor management. This one nobody talks about until they've dealt with it. Galley odor. It comes from the bilge, from the trash, from the drain hose behind the sink, and sometimes from a fridge that runs just slightly too warm. The fix that actually works and doesn't involve spraying anything is small activated charcoal bags tucked in the trash cabinet, under the sink, and near the fridge. They're odorless, they last months, and they address the source rather than masking it with a scent. A galley that smells clean is one of the most underrated parts of making a boat feel well maintained, which matters if you're ever chartering it or putting it on the market. Dishes, pots, and pans. Most boats struggle with cookware and food container storage. For example, almost every liveaboard I have been on has a dish rack that fights you constantly. Things slide, stack wrong, and never fully dry. The hack? Ditch the rack entirely and use a dedicated wet locker approach. Line a deep galley locker with a rubber mesh mat, the non-skid kind sold for boat shelving, and let dishes air dry vertically in there with the door cracked. No counter clutter, no flying dishes and a chop, and dishes are already put away by the time they're dry. Liveaboards swear by it. The trick also works great with storage of pots and pans. On this, I have to mention 2 tricks I love. Look for the kind of pots with the removable handle as they stack super easy, and try the folding Tupperware made of silicone. You'll be glad you did. Storage. Here's the thing. Storage is where the galley design fails most boats, but it's also where the right habits make a near immediate difference. What most people get wrong is treating the galley like a pantry. It's not. It's a working space. Provisions and equipment that don't get used on an everyday basis should live somewhere else on the boat, not occupying prime real estate near the stove or in the accessible locker by the companionway. What actually belongs in the galley? The things you reach for daily, organized by frequency of use. And the upgrade that costs almost nothing is a labeling system. Not because you'll forget what's in the container, but because provisioning for a passage is dramatically faster when everything has a designated home and it's immediately obvious when something needs to be restocked. For liquids and canned goods, use fiddle rails or bungee netting on shelves to prevent movement underway. For spices, use a magnetic strip on a vertical surface or the inside of a cabinet door. For dry goods, use uniform stackable containers, ones that don't roll, don't leak, and don't take up more space than the food inside them. Personally, I use floor storage for long shelf life items or non-food items. Fussing with floorboards isn't something you'll want to do on a daily basis. The storage problems boats are notorious for are almost never solved by adding more storage. They're solved by cutting down what you're actually storing. Let's face it, the galley is a small space with a significant impact on how much you'll enjoy time on your boat, whether you're doing weekend passages or living aboard full time. And when you're evaluating a boat to buy or getting a boat ready to sell, the state of the galley tells you a lot about how well a vessel has been maintained through and through. At Current Yachts, these are the kinds of details we walk through with every client. If you're in the market or just starting to think about it, reach out. The link is in the description. I'll also share the link to our downloadable buyer's checklist and boat buying spreadsheets. Our clients love them. If this galley edit video was useful and you'd like to see more like it, subscribe to the Current Yachts channel right now. And if you liked this video, you'll love this one next. Fair winds!